Yeah, indeed, you agree with me that it was a very engaging week politically there, starting from the supposed rejection of the Electoral Amendment Bill 2, and we had the PDP swearing in their National Working Committee. So we have a lot to talk on this evening on the show. And joining us is the branch chairman, Eyo Okpone, FNIM. He is the branch chairman of the Nigerian Institute of Management Chartered. Good evening, sir. So good to have you join us again on the Weekend Politics.
Thank you very much. Yes,
let's quickly start with the rejection, so to say, of the Electoral Amendment Bill by the presidency. On Thursday, we saw a banner story coming from Daily Sun. And Daily Sun clearly had that caption, an agenda setting, what we call agenda setting in the media for the Daily Sun that came out to push this, that Buhari rejects electoral bill. Do you think, because they usually say that there is no smoke without fire. So is this like an attention to ensure that it provokes the federal government to do the right thing, so to say? What's your thought on what we have there, rejection of electoral amendment bill?
Well, thank you very much. It's difficult to comment on a matter that is within the realms of speculation or rumors. But like you said earlier, there's no smoke without fire. The fact that the president has kept that bill for a long time, since the 19th of November, it was transmitted to him. Having kept that bill for so long, it begins to fuel speculations. And of course, at first we heard that the president wanted more explanation from INEC, and INEC had offered that, and there was a committee between that was set by the National Assembly to dialogue with INEC. All of this is just posturing, because politics is a game of interest. Whose interest is going to weigh upon the president? Is it going to weigh on the side of direct primaries, which will help deepen our democracy? Or is it going to pander to a select few who wants to have control of the political parties? So now this is speculation. But I think that the president, being a Democrat, as he claims to be, will weigh in and sign and give assent to that bill. And if he doesn't, I will encourage the National Assembly to override it by 2/3 majority, which is what is within their purview.
But let's look at this. We've seen some governors coming out very strong to mount pressure on the president not to sign it. And one of them is the governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodimma. What is really important in this amendment bill that governors seek to ensure that indirect primaries is the way forward, not the direct primaries?
There are two components of the bill, but the one that really, there are different components of the bill. One, we talk about the electronic transmission of results. It is one side, which people don't like, because people like to write and rewrite results. The other thing is the issue of direct or indirect primaries. Well, now, what is direct primaries? Direct primaries empowers all members of a political party to participate in the electoral process. Indirect primaries, you have just a handful of people who stay in one place and control the party. The governors have very strong control of the party, and they don't want that control taken from them. Now, how can that control be taken from them? It can only be taken from them by taking the electoral process of all aspirants, all candidates, to the people directly. Now, if that happens in Cross River State, it stands to reason that there will be party primaries in 196 council wards. Okay? And every council ward will now have a say on who is elected. Now, if what interests the governors is that you have to have national delegates, you have to have state delegates and all of that, which the governor's control. And they take these delegates to one corner and put them in somewhere, and can only the candidates that has the interest or that the governor is interested in will have access to those delegates. That's not democracy. In 1991, I contested elections in my local government.
As a local government chairman?
Yes. And it was something like direct primary. It was, though during the Babangida era, it was called option A4. Now, every ward, council ward, had their own primaries. And the winner emerged from there. The elections are conducted by the party executive, meaning that you must have the party support at the grassroots if you want to win. If you want to be a governor in Cross River State, for instance, you have to go to 196 council wards to talk to the people.
Okay, let's get you conclude your thoughts on what you were saying before we went on that break.
Yes, I was talking about, I've mentioned the two components, two major components.
The controversial components.
Yes, one being the electronic transmission of results, and the other one being direct primaries. And I said that, imagine if you can be a governor of a state, or you can be elected a senator without visiting the council wards to familiarize yourself with the party at the grassroots, one, and by extension, to know the problems of the people at that level of government. Somebody stays in Calabar and summons party leaders to come and meet me in his house. And he dishes money to them, and they go. And at the one day, they say, okay, the primary is going to hold tomorrow, so all of you come to the city and lodge in one hotel, and there's no access to political parties or other political party members who wants to contest, because the governors have interest, and they rein their interest on the supporters or the delegates, because the indirect primaries is more like a delegate election. And it's not really democratic, you know. It's expensive as well, because those people that you are bringing in to elect you, you have to settle them, and it breeds corruption.
Let's look at this issue where the governors in Nigeria happen to be very powerful. Now, it's a fact that these guys are extremely powerful. Do you think they are mounting so much pressure on the president, and that's why it's taking the president so long a time to sign this bill into law?
Speculation. I will not rain on that.
Just to add, the president is not running for another term. He's not going for anything. So why would he have to succumb to pressure?
The president is now in his lame duck session, which is that he is not going to run for any election. So this is the time for him to bring a long-lasting change into our electoral process. And I really would want to see the president do that. But in every legislation, there's lobbying, that interest. The governors are presently lobbying, maybe, the president not to assent to the bill. The National Assembly members, some of whom are not in good relationship with their governors, and the governors can throw them out of office if you stick to a delegate election. So there is this lobbying by the two sides. But unfortunately in our democracy, the governors are very powerful, okay? Just as the president is powerful in the national. So I think that for our democracy to grow, we need to deepen participation at the grassroots. That is why I will subscribe to these direct primaries. Okay. I was telling you earlier before you went on break that what we used to call option A4, you know, I had to contest primaries in the 13 council wards of Odukpani local government. I won some, I lost some, but on the balance, I won majority. There's some areas that I did everything to win, but I could not, because the people could not did not accept me, did not accept my policies. But they respected me enough to say, you visited our place. You were the first candidate that ever visited us. Today, people are chairmen of local government. People are in the National Assembly. People are in the State Assembly, and they do not know the problems of the people. Because if you have to visit some of the council wards, you will see the problems. But in our democracy, we are not doing that. We don't allow people to move around to meet the populace, which is one of the things that direct primaries will do. Okay. Now, what I like about direct primaries is that it allows for new party men to emerge. Okay. We should encourage people to register in political parties. I'm encouraging people in my small circle, register in the major political parties or any political party of your choice so that it can affect what happens in your states, in your nation. Because if we just allow people sit in the state capital and take decisions on who goes to the House, who becomes governor, who becomes senator, we cannot have a deepened democracy.
Fine. There is another angle I want us to see, and that was the summoning of the INEC chairman by the appropriation bill. Remember, there was this speculation about 500 billion naira for the primaries, and he came out to say it's not in the place of INEC to fix cost for primaries. Let's look at your thoughts on this, because there seems to be a back and forth on all of this, and in the next 7 days, it will be 1 week, 1 month since the Senate passed the bill and sent it to the president for assent. Yeah. Let's look at that angle of cost as well, though not coming from INEC this time because they've debunked that idea. Let's look at the cost to run primaries, especially direct primaries.
Presidential democracy is a very expensive democracy. That is why our first mistake in Nigeria was to adopt the presidential type of democracy. It is extremely expensive. Now, having said that, we are here. We have accepted this as our own mode of governance. So we must pay for it. I mean, what is the cost of paying for the right thing? Do you know how much we have spent on COVID? Do you know how much we have spent on fighting Boko Haram, bandits, unknown gunmen? Do you know the cost? But it's the right thing to do. We need to do it. Like a friend of mine that I exposed to when I traveled to do some work in Abuja, the man went and saw all the structures in Abuja and said to me, Oga, I am very happy that we have Abuja, because if Abuja was not built, all of this money would have been stolen. So I'd rather we invest in democracy, because that's what we have accepted.
Okay, let's quickly do a wrap on this story before we move to something else. In some, let's say 10 seconds, do you think that the president would sign this bill into law, or would throw it out, or tell them to go back and rework it due to pressure?
My gut feeling is that the president has kept it for too long. And all the back and forth is looking for an excuse to throw it out. And I really think that it will be very sad. But we still, if the president does not assent to a bill, we still have a chance, which is the overriding power of the National Assembly by 2/3 majority. So we still have that aspect to contend with.
So even if he doesn't assent to the bill, the National Assembly may override him?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens in a matter of days to come. Now, let's move away from that story on the supposed rejection of electoral amendment bill, and look at what came up some days ago. The CJN had to take a very strong stance on the judges' intimidation, and this was when they had their Supreme Court year, and said from now henceforth, no more would judges would be intimidated anymore. And some Nigerians are saying that this is happening a little bit too late because under his watch we've seen several judges being intimidated. The recent was that of Justice Marriott Dili's resident National Branch Chairman. Let's look at this issue. Let's look at the CJN Mahmoud Tanko Mohammed coming to say this. Do you think he's been sincere or is just trying to make politics out of this?
Well, I've been in public office. And I can tell you this, that speech was written for him. And I don't see anything that he can do to change that intimidation because, I mean, you do not have powers, you do not have the police, you do not have any powers of force to protect the judges. If the invasion of the House of Mr. Justice Odili had been successful, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Because something would have been found in her residence that would have been used against her. We wouldn't be having this. The jury is out there. Okay. And all the issues are surrounding, if you would like, if I can be honest and fought with. It all surrounds the issue of 2023, whether positively or negatively. So the CJN making that pronouncement when people were being inducted into the
senior advocacy.
I mean, it's neither here nor there. But what can be done? What? Let us see the actions that are going to be taken against those who have been arrested. Let's see it go to the full aspect. Let about their day in court, and let's see how that goes, because that is where the judiciary will be tried.
Yeah, we've seen this not just in the time of Muhammadu Buhari, president. We've seen it long from the time of Obasanjo. There's the idea of not obeying court orders. It happened like that, moved on and it will still happen if the change is not there. But what can the bar and the bench do? Could we see them doing a boycott? Maybe some issues coming from the executive, because all this intimidation comes from the executive. Can we see them say, look, we're not going to handle issues coming from you guys? And that could serve as a massive deterrent. If at all, the executive would have to succumb to that.
Well, lawyers will tell you that they do not involve themselves in protests by their calling. But it's unfortunate that this is happening. And you can see that the judiciary is the whipping boy of a whipping arm of government. Everybody takes advantage of them. You know, yes, disagree, not obeying court order is executive rascality, and unfortunately, the judiciary is limited in taking action on that. It pains me that we are sitting here in Cross River and discussing this matter. Our son, Justice
Walter
Onogen, was a victim of this. What did he do wrong? That you put a man at that level in dock and question him. How despicable was that? But there were judges that sat over it. There were lawyers that saw, and they did absolutely nothing. So it encourages people to run riots around judges. So I don't see how the CJN can stop that.
Do you also see this overdependence on, because as we speak, they're yet to have their full autonomy.
Yeah.
And invariably, as long as they're not independent, if at all they would be, if at all that can even help them, overdependence on the executive, do you think they can even bite the finger that's
At the
within them?
federal level, it's better.
Okay.
You know, there's a level of independence. But it is the overbearing side of the executive that pushes the narrative against the judges. That trying to frame judges, it's the same people that will induce judges to get judgment. The same executive arm to get favorable judgment, the same people are the same ones that will go against them and will try to frame them to get them removed from office. I mean, the executive arm of government is too powerful in our democracy.
So, moving forward, what should the judiciary do?
Well, they should take the hammer.
Since they don't go on protest.
Well, they don't go on protest, but they can issue bench warrants.
Okay. Will it be honored? Who executes them? Is it not the city
Well,
executive?
you have to do that, then you take the matter to the court of public opinion. Okay. And if you do it repeatedly, people will sit up and listen.
Okay, so while we await the outcome of that, if we'll see intimidation of the legal officers coming to an end from the next legal year, we just hope that we hope to see a change, because these guys suffer quite a lot and they're still very much dependent on the executive. Let's move away and pick the next story, which is on the PDP National Convention. Not convention this time, inauguration. Convention was in October. On Friday, the National Working Committee led by Senator Iyache Ayu, they were brought in, and it was quite a big event for Nigeria. And Trust, the national chairman who has just been sworn in, gave a marching order to the APC. Let's look at this, Mr. Pastor Yopwene. The PDP national inauguration. Do you think it's a new birth for the PDP at the national level?
Yes, it is. And you can see PDP showing leadership. You can see PDP showing organization. You can see PDP showing preparedness to take over during the next election round. The other party is busy shifting dates and not decided different factions in different states. I think that at the last count that there are different factions in over 13 states, you know, disagreeing to agree and all of that. And they have shifted their national convention to February 2022, when they should be getting ready to get us candidates that will run the election. So you can see the level of unpreparedness in the ruling party, or what I would like to call the party in power. But PDP is different. And for me, PDP is a breath of fresh air. I think Nigerians should give PDP another chance.
Why do you think Nigeria should give PDP another chance? When they had 16 years, and what are they hoping to do differently if they should be given a chance in 2023?
Well, Nigerians have seen the difference. That it is said that the devil you know is better than the angel that you don't know. Believe me, Nigerians have seen the error of voting out PDP. So now Nigerians are clamoring for those.
What are those indices that will put up as a defense on that?
Performance of the ruling party.
Okay.
We just finished talking about intimidation of judges, and it's happening here and now. We are talking about corruption. This government came in as a corruption crusader, and I tell you, by all international indices, that this government is more corrupt than any other government that Nigerians have had, both military and civilian.
But the APC keeps saying that they are trying to tidy up the rot that PDP had in the last 16 years before they came in.
Excuses. When you do not know what to do, you blame somebody else. They said things like, any government that cannot fix light in 6 months is not qualified. We are in the 6th year of their 2 terms. They said so many things that will be done. Let's take power, for instance. Are you really going to believe the government, the ruling government, that the power problem is still a PDP problem? You cannot. So stop using excuses. So let's move on.
Okay, let me take a quote from the national chairman, Senator Iyorchia Ayu. He said, the party will be guided by consultation, teamwork, internal democracy, and national interest. Let's look at internal democracy. Do you think that the PDP has internal democracy?
PDP, one of the problems PDP had that led to the party losing in 2015 was the problem of internal democracy, imposing candidates and all of that. And I believe that the party has learned from its mistakes, and they are ready to move forward. You could see that the outcome of the party National Working Committee of the party was process of consultation, process of negotiating, and everybody agreed, and by consensus, they emerged. So that is what PDP has, and it has worked for PDP, and that is what the other party is finding difficult to do. They are busy. For a party that is in power, they are busy fighting themselves. So we have learned, or PDP has learned, and I think PDP will do the right thing. Okay. And I congratulate the national chairman of PDP, and if he says what he said in his speech, then Nigeria will be better for it.
Excellent. Okay, let's leave that. Congratulations to Iyorchia Ayu. But let's take the very last story in 3 minutes, and that is the ban on Nigeria. There's a new variant. I think some people are saying it's political because the WHO said that it's supposed to be a matter of consolidation. We shouldn't close our borders. But let's look at this ban. And from what we read today, even the federal government is also making a retaliation to ensure that even flights from UK and Canada and other places are not coming to Nigeria because of the Omicron. But let's look at the ban on Nigeria flights exiting, taking off from Nigeria to those areas.
Well, let me put it this way. The ban hurts Nigerians more than it hurts the other people. So they have the power. So we are talking about reciprocal treatment. It doesn't work. It doesn't help us. Yeah, some people are saying that it's political and all of that. I tend to agree because the Omicron variant is a very mild variant. And we have not heard of hospitalization. Okay. We've not heard of death arising from that variant. And it is important to note that it was South Africa that raised the alarm, that we have found this variant. We have found this variant, and this variant is new. We are learning. But the Western world took it, and they are beginning to punish Africa for it. COVID came, and it shocked the whole world. It shocked the scientists, and they didn't know what to do. They shut down. But I don't think today you need to shut down to treat COVID. You know, where you have, you could isolate, you could give shots, there are so many ways to handle. Just that Nigeria, we just don't have our acts together. But if we did, you know that the West needs us more than we need them. But our leaders are still playing politics with our leadership.
So just to do a wrap on this, let's get your final thoughts on kind of an advice. Or do you think it's necessary to retaliate as a federal government, or shouldn't they explore the diplomatic way to settle this ban, to solve this problem?
In the games nations play, you know, on the face of it, where Nigeria is on the same level with the United States, whether we like it or not. So reciprocity, we must reciprocate whatever they do, and then we can reciprocate, then we go behind and have a conversation on how to take care of the issues.
Okay. Thank you so very much. Eyo Okpuene, FNIM Branch Chairman, Nigerian Institute of Management Chartered. Thank you so very much for your time on the show this evening. We hope to bring you back. Maybe the next time we bring you back will be in 2022, God willing.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. So, friends, this is where we bring the weekend politics to an end. Many thanks for your time. We'll be back next week for the Christmas edition. Remember that some freebies will be on the show, so make sure you stick around and get to know what we're doing here. See you next week, Sunday, God willing. My name is Joseph Ian. Good evening.